Hi, my name is G, and I am the director at Native Speakers Academy, which is a private language school and a center for the study of educational theory and research. Today, I would like to introduce you to the topic of what they don't teach you in school. This is part of the Native Speakers Academy special presentation series on education. So, if you are sitting comfortably, then we shall begin. You should be able to see a picture of a building that is something in between a fantasy castle and a classical example of a school. Do you like it? Is it a nice design? What do you think about the architecture? I think it's beautiful. Can you imagine getting up in the morning and going to school in a place like this? Because there was a time when state education meant more than just memorizing the correct answer. And this is where I went to school. It's in Scotland, and it isn't a private school. If you're interested, it is in fact Milnes School, which originally was a high school and then later a primary school, which is based in the north of Scotland. Nice, don't you think? So, this presentation is a simple summary of the work by American educator and author John Taylor Gatto. He was named New York State Teacher of the Year and received many other awards before he quit teaching, saying he could no longer harm kids. You can see some of his books on the screen there: Weapons of Mass Instruction, Dumbing Us Down, and A Different Kind of Teacher. I would also recommend his Underground History of American Education. And the quote we can read: "You either learn your way towards writing your own script in life, or you unwittingly become an actor in someone else's script." We all know there are obvious life essentials that are not taught in state schools. These include driving a car, buying a house, growing your own food, choosing who to marry, even how to be a good parent. This presentation does not deal directly with these types of problems. However, this presentation deals with empowering young people to acquire the necessary personal skills to become a confident and holistic individual, so that they themselves may be able to solve any problem that they might face. This presentation will also offer solutions to help families and parents raise a more well-rounded and free-thinking and hopefully happier younger generation. And my hope is that you will be able to take away just one suggestion and act on it with the aim of improving the quality of either your world or your children's world. So, let's dive deeper. This fine looking gentleman is Woodrow Wilson. We want one class of persons to have a liberal education, and we want another class of persons, a very much larger class of necessity, in every society to forego the privileges of a liberal education and fit themselves to perform specific, difficult manual tasks. This was from his address to the New York City High School Teachers Association, January 1909. And Woodrow Wilson, of course, was the American president during the First World War at the beginning of the 20th century. So what do I want you to think about here? Rich parents pay large sums of money to send their children away from home for long periods of time into harsh and disciplined environments. Why do they do this? Well, here are a few of the concepts that are taught behind the closed doors of the private schools. Number one, the law of human nature. Students must have an in-depth knowledge of history, physical and social geography, philosophy, theology, law, and language. All of these topics are equally important. In addition, students must be able to create a self-standing resource or locate and use an external database, even amend or extend it as required. Keep it up to date, that is. So what does this mean? If you think about a world with limited resources, we need sustainable systems in our personal lives. Have you ever had a computer crash? What next? What did you do? Did you have a backup? And what would you do if the internet and the information on the internet was unavailable? Who knows what will be in the future? Perhaps there will be many different types of internets. Perhaps you won't have access to all of them. Did you know that any modern day city society is only ever 7 days away from complete collapse if there were something such as a natural disaster or a man-made problem such as the explosion of a nuclear power station, as famously happened in Chernobyl and has happened in other countries around the world because they build nuclear power stations on fault lines and under volcanoes. What are you going to do in that kind of situation? Are you prepared? Are you ready? And students need to be prepared. Young people need to be prepared for all the different complex situations that life unexpectedly throws at them. I was driving home from work the other evening and I had a blowout in one of my tires. It just basically exploded. I don't think there was anything that I've learned in any education system that prepared me for that. And who can you depend on, really, except yourself? Well, how can we support these ideas? How can we assist young people in developing skills that will help them through problems? Solutions. Explore your local library regularly and scan newspapers for trends. Libraries contain not just books but a lot of other historical documents, relevant present information about things happening in society, very often exhibitions as well. Scan newspapers for trends. This comes from a friend of mine who was a business student who explained to me how he looked through local newspapers to see what people were looking for and what people were trying to sell. Have an eclectic bookshelf for reference in your home, something easily accessible and something that contains both sides of the story. Keep records and stay organized and be tidy in your work and self-presentation. Says me who has long dreadlocks. I believe we make life difficult for ourselves. Have a diary for future plans, not just to record present events or the past. And keep it up to date at all times. Next. Number 2, the active literacies and persuasion. Individuals must have a high level of transactional writing to convey an idea, direction, or perspective. They must possess an advanced communicative discourse technique to articulate thought and opinion to individuals and groups, especially to people whom they do not know or have not met. So what does this mean? Modern literacy refers to communicative techniques that will improve quality in all areas of your life. Your private life and your working life or your business life. Have you ever researched the ingredients on a food label? Excuse me. Have you ever scanned the back of a packet of sweets or a bottle of medicine? You know, that could save your life, understanding what is contained there. I think it was last year, maybe the year before, I was visiting my parents and my mother had this container of vitamin pills that she had bought from the local chemist shop. She gave it to me and asked me what I thought about the ingredients that were in it. Would it be good for her to take it? I read what was there. I spent 10 to 15 minutes doing a little bit of research on the internet about these things, and then I put the container of vitamins in the bin. There we go. It's that simple. Did you know at the time of the American Revolution, that's 1776, the answer to 1984 is perhaps contained in 1776. Did you know that way back then, literacy rates in urban areas of the United States were as high as 95%? And this has been estimated through studies of letters written and records of books sold at the time. This, of course, is not including the native North American Indian population. These are the European immigrants who traveled to the United States. Why was it so high? Well, people wanted to read and write. They wanted to know what was happening. It was useful. It was helpful. They wanted to give themselves every opportunity to have a bigger, better, brighter future. And then you have to think about what happened. What happened? If you're interested in more details, Native Speakers Academy has a research article entitled The Lost Legacy of American Literacy. You can find that at our homepage, www.nsa-slovakia.com. So, how can we support these ideas? What are the solutions? Write about anything at all, whatever's on your mind, whatever's happened to you, whatever you'd like to have happen to you. Write about anything for 30 minutes every day. Start your own blog on the internet. That's a good way to share your feelings and ideas and to get some feedback on them. Post and share articles on Facebook or Google Plus. You can use the cyber space of technology, or you can use notice boards in cafes or cafes or bars that might be around the area where you live, or shops. Or you can start a newsletter. Why not? Why not write to well-known or respected people in your local community, people and organizations, and request specific information from them? Because that is a skill which might be very helpful for you at a later point in time in your life. After all, this is the information age, and those who have the information or have access to the information have the advantage. Number 3, you can see some Scottish money. A deep insight into institutions. A practical knowledge of the essential structures of society is vital. The courts, the government, the departments of state and their roles and their leaders, the military, the corporations, the corporate bodies, the corpses, the foundations and charities, and of course the banks and other financial institutions, insurance companies, money lending organizations. And of course you might want to look into the different types of courts as well and who they serve. So this note, a note, they call it a note, that you see in front of you. Interesting, isn't it? Nice design. Nice design. Please note the important parts of the note. A signature. All legal documents, all legal tenders require a recognizable signature. Can you read it? We need to know who that person is. It also says on the note, promise to pay the bearer on demand at their office £20. What is a pound? It's a weight. Like a pound of sugar. But £20 of what? Sterling. What is sterling? Sterling is silver. If you only have £20 and no sterling, £20 of what? Promise to pay the bearer on demand. Can you exchange this note at this bank for £20 of sterling silver? Can you? Something to think about. Scotland has 3 interconnected banks printing money. Each issues a national currency note. Interesting, don't you think? How many has your country? What is your country's financial system of organization? Who controls it? How is money issued? How is the debt paid for? How is it created? Who creates it? What is a British currency? Is there such a thing? You know how you see those exchange offices where they say, we will exchange currency from, interesting we call it currency because it's the current, it's the flow of something, like a river controlled by banks at either side. So, you know, British currency, does it exist? I mean, there's an English bank printing money in England, there are Scottish banks printing money in Scotland. I've always thought it interesting. Try changing Scottish money in a foreign country. What happens? Has no value. Has no value. You need to know the architecture of money. What is value? What is real value? Not just financial value, but what is your value to the world? And how does that change? And how do you change it? How do you improve it? How do we create value for ourselves in society? I always tell my students, nothing is free. Nothing is free. Friendship is not free. Freedom is not free. It costs lives. So how can we support this idea? Solutions. Go to a court proceeding and observe from the gallery. It's an art form. Observe from the gallery. You will see a court, a place where there is a judge, a referee, an umpire, a ruler, and two sides playing their game in the court. Tennis court, badminton court. Interview local businessmen or politicians, those polite tacticians. These are people who have contact with all sides, usually. People with experience. People who have had success and failure. People doing things. These are interesting people. Watch YouTube videos, the educational and interesting ones, such as TED Talks. And always take notes as you go along, because we forget more than we remember. So always take notes. It's invaluable. And study the history of money, debt, or fiat currencies. And if you don't know what fiat currencies are, go and find out. The average length of time that any currency introduced by governments lasts is less than 30 years. So be prepared. Be prepared. Number 4, repeated exercise in civility and politeness. Note the graphic of what the British say, what the British mean, and what other people understand. Repeated exercise in civility and politeness. This is an understanding of how our actions, especially manners, in the present affect our future possibilities. A concept of time that extends beyond the here and now, understanding that the doors of tomorrow are opened by the actions of today founded upon the habits of yesterday. And time is an interesting concept because there's basically no difference between time and space, but we're not really going to get into that here. So what does this mean? We don't always say what we think. Sad but true. Sometimes this is polite. Sometimes this is fear. Good habits are skills built up over long periods of time. Success and civility do not appear overnight for most people. Difficult, larger tasks need to be deconstructed and compartmentalized into smaller elements. Think about, if I give an example from my life. I bought a house last year. It was an old house. So when you buy an old house, there's nothing but work to do on it. There are 1,000 tasks, some of them big, doors, windows, rebuilding walls, knocking down walls, heating systems, some of them small, a little bit of painting, a few pictures on the wall. But these tasks are infinite, endless, And so they need to be broken down into smaller elements so that they can be more easily managed, step by step. As a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And I suggest that we need to teach children to be polite with their words and clear with their intentions. And so how can we do this? Solutions. Lead by example. You cannot expect others to follow if you are a hypocrite. You need to be the Jesus character for your own family. You need to be, as a parent, a tutor, a mentor, a teacher, and a leader, all at the same time, and that's not easy. You have to know when to play those roles. Offer to help neighbors and friends and enemies. Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Always offer to help. You never know where it will lead. And help begets help. Practice random kindness to strangers. There are sensible parameters for this, but why not help people that you don't know? Why not offer a hand to them? If you see someone in the street who needs something and you can offer it, give it to them. I suggest the best forms of help are with time and energy. You don't need money to offer real help. The solutions that money offers are only equal to the problems that it creates. And build friendships with people of all ages. There is something to learn from those who are ahead and those who are behind us. One of my key criticisms of school is that all learning is a vertical process within society. How can you possibly learn anything if you're in a horizontal environment, the environment of your peers? It's very difficult. You can build friendships, but what can you truly learn if you all have the same experience? Number 5, resourcefulness. You can see an image of the logical fallacies. The ability to perform independent work. Students choose their own topics, justify their own actions, develop their own rewards, and are creative when it is required. They must also learn to motivate themselves and be able to articulate the foundational reasoning of their actions. They must be able to explain why they are doing what it is that they are doing. And they must be able to recognize the falseness, the fallacies in other people's actions and arguments. A lot of people say that we need more choice in education. Do we? Do we really need more choice? Is education a real choice? What is a real choice? How do you know what a real choice is? Well, a real choice is when you are free to say no. And there is no punishment, there is no negative consequence, and it's this understanding that helps our reasoning. I suggest that we don't need more choice. I suggest that we need less direction with more self-reflection. Leonardo da Vinci famously said, "Everything is connected to everything," and I'm sure many other people have famously said that as well. And it's true. Everything is connected to everything. Nothing exists in isolation. That's the problem with understanding the present and studying history. You cannot study the Cold War without studying the Second World War or understanding the Second World War. The Second World War was just an extension of the First World War, and so on. We travel back through the great tragedies of history. So everything is connected to everything. And often it's quite hard to see. It's not exactly direct. It might seem that things are connected, which perhaps are not connected. And this is one of the concepts of logical fallacy. Let me try to explain with the simple example that I use with my students. Men ride bicycles. Men ride bicycles. And men fall off of bicycles sometimes. Men fall off of bicycles. Now, men eat fish. Men eat fish. So we've got fish, men falling off bicycles. Is there a connection between fish and falling off bicycles? You could argue that there is, but there's not a correlation between cause and effect there. Perhaps my example is not the greatest example. I'm sure you can think of better ones. So, something to think about. Anyway, that's how I introduce the topic in a rather bizarre way to my students. Solutions. So, solutions to this issue of resourcefulness. Read work by different or opposing authors. You need both sides of the story. You need to listen to both sides. To be an efficient and effective judge in your own life, you need to listen to both sides. Even though we all have that bias, that history that we cannot shake off, that cognitive bias, a tendency to find only what it is that we are looking for. We have to try to get away from those ideas. Make a short-term and a long-term plan and complete it. Short-term goals are easier to set and realize. Long-term plans are much more complex because more things can change over periods of time. But then sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. The journey is sometimes the destination. Learn to compare your present self with your past self. Reflect. Be a mirror for your own experiences. See how far you've come. See how much you've grown. The only true test is the comparison of your past self with your present self, not with other people. And support your ideas with facts, with information, with rationality, and recognize logical fallacy when other people's ideas don't make sense. So, number 6 is regular physical activity. Sports, both individual and team events, train the mind and body to appreciate the concepts of pain, conflict, grace, power, loss, competition, intention, and of course, money. They also give us experience of command, teamwork, and influence. Play, as with experimentation, brings its own rewards. What are scientists doing in the laboratories? They are playing. Experimentation is a form of play. In the north of Scotland, near where I grew up, there is a private school called Gordonston. It is one of those well-kept secrets. It's an elite school for the children of the super rich and royalty. Their days start with a jog through the beautiful, wet and muddy countryside of the north of Scotland. And all afternoons are dedicated to sports, which include rugby, horse riding, and sailing. I have specifically focused on rugby, horse riding, and sailing because these are dangerous activities. And weak children will not become strong adults. Rugby is dangerous, physically very dangerous. You can suffer serious injuries. Horse riding, you can die. You also have to master controlling a beast which is twice your size, more than twice your size. And sailing. If you are out in a boat and you cannot see the land, it's well, the first time that happens, it's kind of a daunting experience, especially knowing that if you can't get back to the land, you're in serious trouble. The Secretary of Admissions at Harvard University, that's, I would say, one of the world's most well-known universities, has stated that the most important part of a curriculum vitae when applying for a course at Harvard is your hobbies, because the hobbies are the only indication of your personal choices, of your free will, and of your personal character. Everything else is part of the system of things. So how can we support this? Solutions. You can obviously play individual and team sports, or try recreational activities such as horse riding. And usually sports mean that you have the opportunity to join a local club, or if there's not one, start one. If you like, say something different or unusual, you might want to get together with other people and share that experience. Whether it's a sport like table tennis, for example, or some other kind of recreational activity such as playing chess, maybe. Walk, run, jump, swing, roll, swim, fall, do all of the things that children love to do and should constantly have the opportunity to do. There are times when we need to remember what it was like to be young. Never grow up, never grow old, never do what you are told. To a certain extent, of course. Explore the benefits of nutrition and a balanced or supplemented diet. Understand the workings of the human biology. Understand how we grow. Understand that the body completely regenerates every 7 to 9 years. That you can rebuild the parts of your body, understand how the bones work, how the muscles work, how the joints work, how the spine works. Understand how diet, what you eat, affects what you do and how you think. The brain is the organ as much as the body is a machine. It needs to be fed. Look at supplementation. Look at making sure you get the right vitamins. B12, vitamin D, vitamin C, iodine, calcium. Get the minerals into your body. Don't underestimate the power of nutrition, and also included in that is the ability to control and moderate what you eat, to control your own desires, to defer gratitude. So, we are about halfway through. Time for me to have a little drink of my coffee. Right. Number 7 is access to people and places. It is important to be able to network through contacts, or even through contacts of contacts, in essence, to get to the horse's mouth, as we say in English. Planning a route to key people in key positions and key organizations can be very important in problematic circumstances. Middlemen often slow things down, confuse issues, or have other agendas. Beware of other agendas. You can see the image that we are all people with a place in society, a role to perform. The whole world is a stage. And sadly, most of us are replaceable in what we do. So what we have to do is build a world where we're not replaceable, where we are as unique as we can be. To make anything work, you need 3 things. You need the right people, the right place, and the right time. The right people, the right place, and the right time. 2 out of 3 is not good enough. It's not going to work. Who can you trust? That's a key question for life, really. Who can you trust? I think I answered that earlier. Even friends make mistakes. Have you ever played the game Chinese Whispers? It's where everyone sits in a circle and one person whispers a sentence in the ear of the person next to them. This person, and they whisper it only once. Then this person whispers the same sentence to the person next to them. Only once. And so the sentence continues around the circle. Inevitably, people mishear things. And by the time the sentence gets back to the start, it has changed. And it's an example of how good intentions can go bad. It's an example of how if we try to if we try to give up liberty for the sake of security, we end up with neither liberty nor security, really. Even friends make mistakes. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. I guess that's what I really want to say. We need the doors around us to be open all of the time for access to be both ways as well. We do not want to be closing the doors behind us. And if they are closed and we can't get them open, we need to know somebody who can help us. So what are the solutions? Make a family tree. Know your history. History. Never made that connection before. Okay. Make a family tree. And not just names, places and ages, but also jobs and skills. See if you can map out a pattern. Annotate a map of your local area, including businesses. See what's there. See what possibilities and opportunities you can explore. Plan long interconnecting trips by bus, plane or train. Study timetables. Look at how you can get from point A to point Z, not just point B. And study the 6 degree of separation principle. And what this is and was, this was an experiment by an American university professor, I think in the 1960s, to see how interconnected the world was. And this was way back before we had computers to interconnect everyone and everything. And he did experiments sending packages from one part of a country to, first of all, parts of the same country and then other countries. And he did this through asking people who were traveling to take the package with them. And what he discovered was you could get anything anywhere through usually on average only 6 different people making 6 different journeys. So this means that you're only 6 people, 6 points of connection away from anyone, anywhere, at any time. It's quite an incredible understanding to realize we're that close to each other. We really are that close to each other. 6 degrees of separation. Number 8 is responsibility. Give more, buy less. I like this graphic, one of my favorites. The student must be internally motivated to deliver more than has been asked for. They must stretch themselves and extend their abilities, even pick up new skills as and when required. Universal morality requires that all blame lies with the self. You cannot point the finger at anyone else at any time for anything. We are all equally responsible. All it takes for evil to prosper is for good people to do nothing. Sharing is a great responsibility if it is done freely. After all, what you don't get, you can't give. And I'm pretty sure that you can only take with you what you give away. Kindergarten children are often told, you have to share, you have to share. Simple, isn't it? You have to share. But it's misguided. Because share implies voluntary action. And have to expresses external force. You cannot force someone to do something voluntary. Saying you have to share is a contradiction of terms. Think about what you're telling children to do. All actions of force on others, especially those on children, are inherently immoral. That's it. Know your limits. It's important to know what you can't do as well as what you can do. Knowing what I couldn't do, and so avoiding it has been extremely helpful to me in my life. It saves you time, and it means you can cut out the nonsense. So how do we support these ideas? Solutions. Make long-term promises to yourself, to your friends, to your family, to your colleagues, to your boss, to your employees, and keep them. Keep them. Keep hold of them. Keep them inside. Be successful. Be on time, or even better, in time, so that you can take your time and maybe make time for others as well. Just don't be late. Don't be rushing. Don't be running around. Don't be trying to catch up with yourself. Accept care tasks, looking after an animal or a less able family member, or perhaps a child or a baby. And look out for these. Look out for the opportunities of these tasks as well. Set your own goals and make them achievable. Learn what is not possible. There are universal laws. We cannot escape them. So you need to learn what is not possible. And have your own targets. Know what it is that you need in your life, and let your actions define you rather than external things such as your job or your position in the company. Number 9, development of a personal code. You will notice that sometimes there are slight crossovers in the areas of these topics, but that's just to be expected. You should be able to see the rules to always being a gentleman, which has for a long time been posted on my fridge at home. Useful ideas. Take time to read it. There must be an ability to produce formal behavior when required, which may even mean on demand when demanded, and display an unflinching set of morals that allow the character of a person who can be depended upon by others, be trusted, be counted on, be true to yourself at the same time. Be true to yourself. Set standards. One of my favourite quotes is a Bob Marley quote. If she's good, she won't be easy. And if she's easy, she won't be good. Have morals. If you trust yourself, you must trust yourself to know when you are right, and when you are right in the moral sense, do not compromise. There is no advantage to compromising morality, none whatsoever. You will only get closer to being wrong, or there being a negative result if you compromise in that kind of situation. And in terms of experiences, as I previously mentioned, you can only take with you in life wherever you go, the experiences and the times that you have shared, in essence, what you have given away to others. So, how do we support this idea with solutions? Set visible personal morals. Visible. Get them out of your head, write them down, post them somewhere. That's it. Post them on a door, let other people see them. Let people know you have standard. Standard, what holds the flag. Plant it in the ground. And never compromise. Yet, respect, grow, adapt, and change where necessary. As you grow, as you learn more, you have perhaps to reset, reevaluate, to change, but never compromise. It's interesting that compromise has the word promise within it. Have manners, civility, and show respect in every situation. Always be polite. Never lose your temper. I can think in my life of times when I have lost my temper and it has not helped. Oh, don't get me wrong, there is a time for the positive aspects, the gifts of anger. There is a place for that in life. Do not apologize for self-defense. We would all be just victims if we did that. Show respect. Learn the rules of the game of life. As the Beatles said, it's easy. There are some strange inverted commas appearing in that statement. As the Beatles said, it's easy. All you need is da 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 da. All you need is da 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 da. Okay, you get the idea, right? Go and read the lyrics to that song. Go and read the lyrics. You will be blown away. Perhaps the most important piece of popular poetry written in the 20th century. Go and read the words. It's a code. Life is a game. Learn the rules. It's easy. Experience making a guest feel welcome and comfortable. Invite them in. Get them to relax. Talk to them. Find out what's on their mind. Something I do every day in my job. Ten. A familiarity with art's great works. You should be able to see a picture. You should also be able to know who drew this picture. Well, only you know, if you know. The student must be at ease with their own ability to discuss artistic issues and even become involved in or lead creative activity, often being able to reproduce or even extend parts of it. This includes music, painting, design, sculpture, architecture, and dance. And probably a few other cultural-based activities that I've not included. So, how good is your knowledge of art, of history, of the movements of music, of painting, of theatre, of the wonder of the spoken word, theatre, theos, the house of God? We begin by copying Monkey see, monkey do. But then we need to move on. We need to grow. We are all born original. It would be a giant tragedy to die just a copy, wouldn't it? It would be a loss, a great loss. And aside from trade, which brings culture and people together, art and religion, or if you like, creativity and philosophy, sadly not always logical, lie at the center of every community throughout history, along with rivers and bridges. That's why religion has funded so much art throughout history. It's an understanding of the importance of that within our view of the world. To have an understanding of the world, that is. So how do we support these ideas? Solutions. Go to galleries or theatres physically or virtually, or join a local art or dance club. Perform, create, express yourself, and support the expressions of others. Who knows where it will lead? What you will be inspired to do. Take pictures. With modern technology, most mobile phones have cameras in them. Take pictures constantly. Make videos. Modify them using digital media. Put them on the internet. Get feedback from other people. Get other people to contribute to your work, to your projects. Be able to recognize good art and comfortably talk about how you feel when you experience art. Because art is really an experience. All art is really the stimulation of a reaction in the observer, the viewer. And there is a difference between good art and bad art. Believe me. You can also study how art was influenced in the 20th century by politics, and politics influenced by art. They were symbiotic in many senses. Try to record what you see by drawing or painting or sculpting. It was often believed in the higher level university courses back in the 19th century that if you could not record what you saw, then you did not really see it. That's why an understanding of art was extremely important. For if we cannot explain what we see, or record in detail what we see, how do we know that it's there? It could be just an illusion. And this leads us directly into the concepts of observation and recording. A person must be able to accurately record in graphic scientific detail and recall their environment and any changes within it. Think of the seasons as they pass, not just the seasons of time in the earth, but the seasons of life. Drawing sharpens perceptions and is linked to the philosophy that if you can't record it or reproduce it, then it is not really there. Measures produce evidence, and evidence produces logical conclusions. Where do you put your thoughts? Where do you store them? How do you organize them? Do you organize them? Where are they? Can you put your finger on them? Memory, which is also morality, is predominantly visual. So just as we organize our rooms, our houses, our hearts, we must tidy our mind. We must create virtual pathways in our mind along which information and ideas can flow. Everything must have its place, its order, its balance. We must understand the psychological motivations of our life and the lives of others. We must understand how we are affected by external motivations, by love and by fear. Basically, everything is a reaction to love and fear. These are the only two driving forces within the universe. Are you motivated because you love something, or are you motivated because of fear of negative consequences of what happens? And then we have the conscious, the subconscious, and unconscious minds all fighting with each other for control of the person and the personality. And which part is stronger? I suggest the unconscious mind is the strongest force. So what does this all mean? It means we need to look at solutions. Keep a personal, handwritten diary. The art of writing by hand makes things more personal. It's still an extension of yourself. It's always an extension of yourself. And this is something that you can look back on. It's also a record, not just for you, but for others. The generations that follow you can learn from your mistakes. We all stand on the shoulders of giants. That's how we got here. Play memory games and learn memory techniques. Work with your mind. Develop strategies. Last week I taught my son to play drafts, or checkers as it's also known. That is the first stage. To develop skills, strategies, to learn from your mistakes, to know what to do, to know what the other person might do, then develop to the next level. Hopefully, I will teach him to play chess next. And there are many other games that help us to use our memory. And learn memory techniques. Understand observational memory techniques. Understand how the mind works, how the mind records information, how we need to put anchors in the brain, how we need to organize our ideas as if they were a mental library. Reserve a little time each day for reflection and contemplation on the successes and failures of your day. I was recently in a one-to-one consultation session with a businessman who was explaining to me how he tried to organize 15 to 20 minutes every day for a little bit of reflection on the successes and failures of that day. And not just of that day, perhaps of that week, of that month, of that year. Reserve a little time. Reserve yourself. Write a thank you note to somebody. Just say thank you. Make it personal. Make a difference. Make a difference to your life and somebody else's life. Today, the thank you note. It's a lost art, really, isn't it? Number 12, an ability to deal with challenges that we face. All students must overcome fears if they are to progress in physical, psychological, or spiritual development, and in the worst case scenario, be able to disguise or mask, hide where necessary, emotions. And children need to be guided to understand these elements. Not too much, because there's an innate understanding of these things, but we need to balance risk against opportunity. We need to balance costs against benefits. In every single thing that we do, it's a cost-benefit analysis. The challenges that people face is really something that defines them to themselves and then to others. British businessman Richard Branson, around the age of 5, was left alone in London by his mother and told to find his own way home. The experience defined him. Admiral Farragut, one of the single most important revolutionary admirals in American history, took charge of his first ship at the age of 12. It was a time of war, and he had to oversee the crew and slaves at that time. And he was considered to be the best man for the job at that age. An American president, Abraham Lincoln, at the age of 9, woke up to find that his father, who he lived with, had left. His mother had previously died, and now his father had left, and he had to take care of himself and his sister. There are also stories of how he would walk something between 10 to 15 miles just to borrow a book so that he could read it. These events that happen to us when we are very young sometimes define us for the rest of our lives. And autobiographies are full of insights into unusual motivational techniques. So I'd recommend reading about reality rather than fantasy. And of course, basically reading itself is learning. So, how do we support these ideas? How do we deal with these challenges? Climb a tree, climb a hill, climb a mountain, set your goal, challenge yourself. As we are all different, the challenges that we need will be different, and they will come at different times, sometimes very testing times. Break large tasks down into smaller tasks. I mentioned this earlier in the context of rebuilding a house or working on a house, that compartmentalization of problems can help us develop individual solutions when necessary. Try problem solving or group ice-breaking activities. Get together with friends, have fun, do something unusual, crazy, set yourself a challenge. Isn't that what things like perhaps golf are? Isn't that just a challenge that you set yourself to try to be better, to try to improve, to balance things within your life, and that you want flow between all of your activities? And we need these challenges to be better people. Life without challenges would just go nowhere. And ice-breaking activities, those those crazy kind of business residential um, activities where people get to know each other by doing unusual things. Be different, be better. Visit new places and meet new people and make new friendships. Grow and grow and grow. Friendships. It's a ship. It's something to take you on a journey. These are people that you can travel with through your life. And very often friendships are only for certain periods of time, and then you have to move on in your personal life, in your work life, and that's just the way things go. Nothing lasts forever. And so these are really all important elements to understand when we deal with challenges, especially from a young age. Number 13. We're almost there. I hope you're still with me. To have caution in reasoning to conclusions. Each situation must be weighed and balanced on its own true merit. An ability to reach a decision without comparison is vital within the concept of justice and fairness. Look, there's a spelling mistake. Or an extra word. Probably I was thinking of a just society, a just and fair society. So within our concept of justice and fairness, each situation must be weighed and balanced on its own true merit. Each person must be able alone to make judgments, develop their own values and opinions, and to follow up all of their ideas. To follow up, to check, to review, to assess, to understand. They must monitor and self-assess themselves so that they may make improvements, to improve themselves whenever it is required. So the image related to this is the trivium of grammar, logic, and rhetoric. And this is important because this was a classical method of education that has been essentially lost in state reasoning. And we need this, I think, if we're going to foundationally rebuild our understanding of logic and society, and how the world works around about us, and how we are going to find our own place in that world. Grammar is the basis of our communication. The roots of language run deep, deep within society and deep within ourselves. So I always recommend that you use a dictionary of etymology. Look at the root of the word. Look at where it comes from. Is the meaning today the same as the meaning in the past? Do you understand the word education? Do you know what it means? Educate, to bring out of a person the skills and abilities that are deep within them. Not to inform, not to shape, but to help a person become themselves. Do you understand the origin of the words related to education? Pupil, seminar, pedagogue. Search to find where these words come from. Grammar itself has its etymological origin in the word grimoire, which was a book of black magic, and that's why we spell words, because it's word magic. Word magic that creates language, which is the gauge of the land. It defines part of who we are and where we come from. And words are weapons. That's why the word is so close to the sword. Think about how you spell the words. A word is a sword. There are only two ways to change people: by force and by language. And sometimes language is force. So, how can we support these ideas? We can use a scientific method of reasoning, such as the trivium, as I just explained, or maybe UPB, universally preferable behaviors, through the work of Stefan Molyneux, for the idea that there is a universally preferable behavior, and society could be constructed. This is one way of many ways that society could be constructed to make things a little bit better for everybody. Also, have a moral code. Start with the biblical 10 Commandments. You can't go wrong. Then I suggest studying the Magna Carta, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence, it's endless. It's endless. Begin your journey somewhere. Who knows where it will end? You can look at the writings of the founding fathers of the United States. You can look at the work of Samuel Rutherford, and just put these names into the search engine on our Native Speakers Academy homepage, nsa-slovakia.com, and you can get some resources to get yourself started. Just start. You don't know where it's going to end. The future isn't written yet. The past defines the present, but you define the future. Understand the difference between ethics and morals. Ethics and morals are not the same. Morals are foundational and have been here since the beginning of time. It was wrong and it is wrong and will always be wrong. Ethics are cultural. They change from society to society. Beware of ethical principles pushed by large organizations such as governments. Beware of bioethics. Understand what that means, bioethics. Speak in public. Speak to people. Or speak to local people, or present to foreign groups of people. Know your audience. Understand that you have to change your information when you change your audience. You have to present it in different levels, in different ways. Explore these ideas. Practice it. It's nice here in Slovakia, where I live, that a lot of the examinations in school are oral-based examinations, where students have to organize their thoughts into a verbal presentation. That skill has been lost in so many countries already. And orientate towards programs of self-study. Don't wait. Don't rely on other people to teach you what you know. Self-study so that you may correct your own errors and learn that a mistake is not a mistake as long as it is corrected. And we all make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And these are the 13 basic principles that they don't teach you in school. How else can we support these ideas? One way is to take control of our own learning for ourselves and our family. This could include the idea of finding an alternative school, such as a Montessori school or a Steiner school, or homeschooling or unschooling. You could take a little time to explore all these terms. Perhaps most importantly, with things like homeschooling and unschooling, it's It's really interesting when we understand that these activities cost little or no money, and so are options available to most people most of the time. I didn't realize that these other alternatives existed until I was well over 30 years of age, and I studied in the pedagogical systems. So there really is a lot of hidden and occulted information that we might want to spend a little bit of time looking into. There are a lot of advantages to controlling your own study. You can decide on your own schedule. If you're homeschooling, there's one-to-one attention. Time can be spent on subjects that really interest you. Parents can build stronger relationships with their children. They can tailor the teaching to fit the child's dominant learning styles or strategies. And children can take more control and responsibility over their own education. And the costs are low. The costs are low. Per student, the costs are much lower than channeling through a state-based vampiric resource. What is it? Method, perhaps? And there are many traditional methods of education that we can use individually, whether we're using independent study, computer-based study, textbook-based, classical forms such as the trivium. It's really endless, and the skills that children need to learn, such as in the 13 principles discussed earlier, are skills which basically they don't need to be drilled into individuals so that these individuals develop only automatic responses. These are life skills which are lifelong resources for a good and productive and healthy lifestyle, which can be learned and refined, and if they're forgotten, they can be relearned, and with a little forethought and a bit of careful planning and the right environment of care and love, children can grow to develop their full potential. Wouldn't that be great if everybody developed to their full potential? And another thought is that I'm not against state schools, don't get me wrong. I believe that up to the age of 18, schools in many countries provide an interesting and varied education system, especially here in Slovakia, where I live, despite the fact that homeschooling is very difficult. The law makes it very difficult here. Despite the fact it's very difficult, the state education here up to the age of 18 is very, very interesting and varied. But what I'm really against is forced learning, forced education, because simply if it's forced, it has already failed. And I can't emphasize this enough. If you have to force it, that means it has already failed. So, to summarize our 13 principles, I'd like to say that state schools barely scratch the surface of these ideas, which are essential to a better quality of life in the future. It is usually left to dedicated parents, close family members, and good friends to facilitate opportunities for the younger generation that allow for their complete development. And if you are interested in looking at these ideas more deeply, then I recommend the DVD, The Ultimate History Lesson, A Weekend with John Taylor Gatto. This is posted online for free on YouTube, and it is a 5-hour interview that is just an introduction to Mr. Gatto's work and his knowledge. And it was recorded by the Tragedy and Hope organization, who themselves have produced a fantastic series of resources on learning and history, with the hope that the negative elements of history don't repeat. Finally, let's not forget that it's nice to sit back, relax, delegate responsibility to others, and put your feet up every now and then, and have a moment of comfort and relaxation in your life. But at the same time, it's a fact that all real learning progress occurs when we step outside of our personal comfort zone. We need to get outside of that comfort zone, and that's where learning truly occurs. And that's the fundamental lesson I get from these 13 principles. I thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that you can take away just one or two ideas from this presentation and use it perhaps to empower your family or yourself in the future. My name is G, and you can reach me through Native Speakers Academy. The website is www.nsa-slovakia.com. Feel free to send me an email or link up through our social networks. If you would like more information about how the school can help you, or you would like to have a free consultation through HD Skype, then just let me know. Take care, and I wish you a great rest of the day wherever you are. Respect to you all. There will be another special presentation, I hope, quite soon. And take care. Goodbye for now.